An intern walked into my office, crossed her arms, and declared, "I want my own office and a company car, because I deserve special treatment." When I told her that's not how promotions work, she scoffed. "Then I'll just work somewhere that appreciates me." I smiled, handed her a job application, and said, "Here you go, good luck finding that place." I've been in the corporate world for over 2 decades, and I thought I had seen it all, until I met Vanessa. Vanessa joined our company as a summer intern. She was a recent graduate from a well-known university, eager to make her mark in the business world. From the outset, she exuded confidence, which I initially admired. Confidence is valuable in our industry, especially in a bustling city like Chicago, where our headquarters are located. On her first day, Vanessa walked into my office without knocking. She stood before my desk, crossed her arms, and declared, "I want my own office and a company car, because I deserve special treatment." I was taken aback. Interns typically share a communal workspace, and company cars are reserved for senior executives who frequently travel for business. I composed myself and replied, "Vanessa, that's not how promotions or perks work here. We assess performance over time before granting additional responsibilities or benefits." She scoffed. "Then I'll just work somewhere that appreciates me." I smiled, reached into my desk drawer, pulled out a job application form, and handed it to her. "Here you go, good luck finding that place." Vanessa snatched the form from my hand and stormed out of my office. I assumed that would be the end of it, but I was wrong. Over the next few weeks, Vanessa's behavior became increasingly disruptive. She frequently arrived late, missed deadlines, and openly criticized company policies during meetings. Her attitude began to affect the morale of other interns and even some full-time employees. One afternoon, I received a call from our Human Resources department. They informed me that Vanessa had filed a formal complaint against me, alleging that I was discriminating against her by not granting her the same privileges as senior staff members. I was stunned. I had always prided myself on treating all employees fairly and equitably. I knew I had to address this situation carefully. I scheduled a meeting with Vanessa and an HR representative. During the meeting, I calmly explained the company's policies regarding promotions and benefits. I also provided documented examples of her recent performance issues and how they were impacting the team. Vanessa listened silently, her expression unreadable. When I finished, she simply said, "I understand," and left the room. The next day, Vanessa resigned from her internship. In her resignation letter, she accused the company of failing to recognize her potential and stated that she was seeking opportunities where she would be truly valued. I thought that was the end of the saga, but a week later, I received an email from a colleague at another firm. Attached was a screenshot of a social media post Vanessa had made, detailing her version of events and painting our company in a very negative light. Concerned about the potential damage to our reputation, I consulted with our legal team. They advised that while we couldn't control what former interns posted online, we could ensure that our own narrative was clear and transparent. We decided to hold a company-wide meeting to address the situation. During the meeting, I reiterated our commitment to fair treatment and equal opportunities for all employees. I also emphasized the importance of professionalism and respect in the workplace. The incident served as a wake-up call for many within the company. It highlighted the need for clear communication of company policies and the importance of addressing issues promptly before they escalate. In the end, Vanessa's tenure with us was brief but impactful. It reminded me that in the ever-evolving corporate landscape, challenges can arise from the most unexpected places. It's how we respond to these challenges that define our character and shape our company's culture. A few days after Vanessa quit, things started getting weird. I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. When I played it back, it was someone breathing heavily, then hanging up. It happened again later that evening. Same thing, no voice, just breathing. I chalked it up to a prank and ignored it. Then, my assistant forwarded me an email. Subject line: "You should have treated me better." No body text. Just that line and a gif of a burning office. The email was from some anonymous burner account, but it didn't take a genius to figure out who it was from. I reported it to HR and IT. IT traced the IP address back to a local public library. Not much we could do, legally, since no direct threat was made. HR made a note of it and told me to keep track of anything else unusual. It got worse. One morning, I came into work, and someone had glued a printout of Vanessa's resignation letter to my office door. Red markers circled every sentence, and someone had scrawled across the bottom, "You'll regret this." That was the moment it stopped being a weird intern story and started turning into a real problem. I contacted building security. We reviewed the cameras. Footage showed someone in a hoodie and jeans sneaking onto our floor around 11 p.m. the night before. No face. They knew where the blind spots were. Still no direct proof it was Vanessa. But deep down I knew. I reached out to a friend in HR at another company downtown, just to see if Vanessa had tried applying there. Turns out she had. And she'd used me as a reference. Bold move. Even crazier? She told them she left our company because of toxic behavior and emotional mistreatment. I was stunned. I wrote a very professional, very honest email stating that I could not in good faith recommend her. No drama. Just facts. I thought that would be the end of it again. But then I started noticing small changes at work. Documents I hadn't touched were being edited. My calendar had meetings moved or cancelled by someone with admin access. IT confirmed there was no breach. It had to be someone with access to internal systems. Only 2 people had that access in our department. My assistant, and the new intern who had replaced Vanessa. I started digging. The new intern, Mia, seemed polite and quiet. Too quiet. She never talked much in meetings. Always kept to herself. But her resume had been spotless, and her references checked out. Still, something didn't sit right. One night I stayed late. Way past closing. Around 9:30 p.m., I saw Mia slip into the office from the side entrance. She didn't see me. I watched her go to her desk, pull something from her bag, and head toward the file room. I followed her quietly. She was copying documents. Real ones. Confidential reports, salary sheets, promotion tracking. All things that could be damaging if released. I stepped into the room. Mia. She froze. She didn't even turn around. I need you to put that down and explain what the hell is going on. She slowly turned. Her eyes were wide. I'm sorry. I had to. Had to do what? I owed her. Vanessa? Mia nodded. She's my cousin. I stood there in silence. She continued. She said you ruined her life. Said you humiliated her. She couldn't get hired anywhere. She moved back home and barely leaves her room now. She said you made her feel like garbage. I took a deep breath. She did that to herself, Mia. She made demands she couldn't back up. She crossed lines. She's family, Mia said quietly. I didn't think it'd get this far. I just wanted to help her get proof. To show people you weren't who you say you are. I walked over, took the flash drive from her hand, and deleted the files. This stops now. But I knew deep down, it wasn't over. Vanessa might not have walked through our doors again, but she was still in the building, in the minds of the people she'd convinced to carry out her mess. And something told me this was just the start. A week passed. I had reported Mia's actions to HR. She was let go quietly. We didn't want a scene. I didn't press charges, and honestly, I just wanted to move on. But then came the audit. Our finance team was doing routine quarterly reviews when they flagged something odd. A series of small transactions, tiny consulting fees, random reimbursements, all just under the amount that required executive approval. Spread out, they didn't raise alarms. But when you stack them together, it looked like someone had siphoned off almost $9,000 over the course of 2 months. They traced the approvals back to my department. Specifically, my account. I was stunned. I hadn't touched any of those files. I barely did expenses myself. I left that to the system and my assistant. But everything had my digital signature. The head of finance called me into his office. His tone wasn't accusatory, but it wasn't friendly either. This doesn't look good, he said. I agreed. IT launched a deeper investigation. I had to surrender my laptop and phone. For 2 days I was walking on eggshells, wondering how the hell this got tied to me. And then I remembered the calendar changes. The strange meeting requests. Someone had been poking around in my profile for weeks. Then IT dropped the bomb. The access point for the suspicious activity? It came from my old intern's login. Vanessa. She shouldn't have had access anymore. But apparently the day she quit, she never formally returned her company-issued laptop. It was flagged in the system, but no one followed up. And somehow, even after IT deactivated her account, someone reactivated it using a backdoor admin credential. I asked IT how that was possible. They said only someone with deep access, or someone with help, could pull that off. And that's when I remembered something Mia said back in the file room. She said you weren't who you say you are. Not. You weren't who she thought you were. Not. You weren't who she believed you were. No. You aren't who you say you are. Which meant Vanessa had told Mia something deeper. Something planned. I started digging myself, off the record. I went through Vanessa's original resume, LinkedIn profile, everything. She had listed a bunch of high-profile internships, but one of them caught my eye. Strategic Consulting Assistant at Eastgate Advisory. I had a buddy who worked at Eastgate. I called him up and asked, Did you guys ever have a Vanessa R in your summer program last year? He paused. Nope. Never heard that name. We had a Vanessa G, but she was in marketing. I asked him to check the records. No Vanessa R, no Vanessa G in consulting, no one matching her background. I dug further. Turns out, 3 of the 4 internships she listed had no record of her. The references? Dead numbers. 2 of them went to the same voicemail. She'd faked her entire pre-hire history. I couldn't believe we missed it during the initial background check. Then again, she was an intern. No one digs too deep when you're unpaid and fresh out of college. But that wasn't the worst part. A few nights later, I got a call from the building's night security guard. He knew me well by now, older guy, super alert. You got a minute? He asked. I think you need to see this. I drove to the office. He showed me security footage from earlier that evening. It was Vanessa. She wasn't in disguise this time. She walked right through the front door around 8 p.m., using a badge that no longer existed. She went to the 17th floor, our floor, spent 14 minutes inside, and walked out. Nothing was stolen, no alarms were triggered, but she had been there. I called the police. They said they'd look into it. But I could already tell they didn't care much. Nothing technically illegal had happened, not yet. Still, I needed answers. The next day, I called Mia. She didn't pick up. I sent her a message, we need to talk. I know everything. She replied 3 hours later, I can't. I shouldn't have helped her. It went too far. That was it. I went to HR, laid everything out, and told them we had a serious situation. They said they'd escalate it to legal. Meanwhile, I installed my own security system at home. A camera on the porch, another one in the garage, and I started locking my office door, something I never had to do before. Because I had a sinking feeling this wasn't just about a disgruntled intern anymore. This was something else. Something bigger. And I wasn't even sure it had fully started yet. 2 days after the footage of Vanessa re-entering the building, our CEO called an emergency leadership meeting. Small group, just me, HR, IT, legal, and the CEO, Andrew. No more downplaying. We were in damage control mode now. Andrew was clear. If there's an internal vulnerability, we shut it down now. If someone's targeting staff, we call the police and go public. But this doesn't stay in-house anymore. I told them everything. Every piece I had. The fake resume, the false references, the midnight email, the financial tampering, the file room incident with Mia. I gave them Vanessa's full name, the aliases she used online, even the burner account that emailed me. HR and legal were stunned. Andrew looked like he aged 5 years during the meeting. Then we got a hit. Security flagged an attempt to log into one of our cloud-based project files. The IP ping from a coffee shop just outside the city. We called the cops. They actually responded this time. Vanessa was found, sitting in the back corner of the cafe with her old company laptop, logged in under a fake employee credential. She didn't resist. Just shut the laptop when they approached and said, I was expecting this. She was arrested on the spot for unauthorized access to protected company data. Charges were filed. IT pulled every trace of her digital activity. It was worse than we thought. She downloaded over 200 internal documents in total. Nothing explosive, but enough to make a mess if leaked: client lists, pricing models, HR policies, even some private performance reviews. She'd also tried to impersonate 2 different executives in anonymous emails to industry blogs, trying to paint the company as corrupt and discriminatory. When the news broke inside the company, it was like setting off a bomb. People were shocked. HR sent out a full transparency statement. Mia was called in by police too, not arrested, but questioned. She admitted to helping Vanessa with passwords and remote access, though she swore she didn't know the extent of what Vanessa planned. I didn't believe her. A week later, we held a staff meeting. Voluntary. Just to talk it through. A few people came to support me. Some were quiet. A few asked pointed questions. One manager said, "How could someone like that slip through the cracks?" I didn't have a good answer. But then, something happened I didn't expect. One of our senior analysts, Raj, stood up in front of everyone and said, "I remember the way Vanessa acted in that first week. How she treated the staff like they were beneath her. A few of us tried to say something. But we were brushed off. We all need to listen better. That's on us." There was silence after he spoke. The kind of silence that holds weight. That night I got home late. I sat on the edge of my bed, exhausted. Not angry, just wrung out. I thought back to when Vanessa walked into my office that first day, arms crossed, bold as hell, demanding an office and a car. I thought she was entitled. Maybe she was. But there was more to it. That kind of ambition, It's not natural unless it's taught or born from something ugly. And clearly, she carried more with her than I ever saw. I felt guilt. Not because I caused her spiral, but because I didn't stop it early. I let her unravel, thinking she'd just vanish. She didn't. She fought back in the only way she knew how, through chaos. In the weeks that followed, the company changed some policies. Background checks got tighter. Intern vetting was expanded. Security was updated. Mia? She disappeared from everything. No social media, no calls returned. I think she was ashamed. Or maybe scared. I never saw her again. Vanessa ended up taking a plea deal. She avoided jail time but had to pay restitution and take mandatory counseling. I never heard from her again either. Probably for the best. As for me, I stayed. Still working. Still leading. But I stopped assuming people were harmless just because they were new. And I started listening, really listening, when staff brought concerns forward. The truth is, one intern almost brought a multi-million-dollar firm to its knees. All because no one asked enough questions, and no one believed things could go that wrong. Now I know better. And yeah, sometimes I still check the office door twice before I leave. Just in case.